News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset. 800-288-WBAP is our number. That's 800-288-9227. This is a full court press from the Biden administration to force Israel to stop its invasion of Rafah, to stop its war against Hamas. In Gaza, Hamas, in most importantly Rafah, which is the one of their largest cities, and it's in the southernmost large city of Gaza. And in there are the last remaining strongholds of Hamas, in there and south of Rafah. And you have Yahya Sinwar, who put the war together to kill 1,200 Jews, rape them, rape their babies, their women, behead them, and kidnap several hundred of them, including what the UN said, not only that they're systematically raping and raped the women in their attack, that it was systemic. It wasn't just one or two people. It was widely part of the plan. But they also reported the hostages, some of whom we're not even seeing yet, that are still being held hostage by the terrorist Hamas, are being raped regularly, and they're being sexually tortured regularly. And so you have the Biden administration, first it came out with Chuck Schumer, and he said this yesterday.
Israel cannot survive if it becomes a pariah. Prime Minister Netanyahu has also weakened Israel's political and moral fabric through his attempts to co-opt the judiciary. And he has shown zero interest in doing the courageous and visionary work required to pave the way for peace, even before this present conflict. As a lifelong supporter of Israel, it has become clear to me the Netanyahu coalition no longer fits the needs of Israel after October 7th. The world has changed radically since then, and the Israeli people are being stifled right now by a governing vision that is stuck in the past.
Okay, so he literally is calling for Israel for Benjamin Netanyahu, one of our strongest allies in the world, if not the strongest, the only democracy in all of the Middle East. He's calling for their leader, who the people of Israel, elected, to step down. And ABC News reporting in an exclusive that the several top administration officials in Bibi Netanyahu's administration say that the U.S. is slow-walking all of the ammunitions that it promised. Shells, 120 millimeter tank shells, 155 millimeter artillery shells. The U.S., meanwhile, is pumping Ukraine full with them while they're slow-walking Israeli aid, including money. And the senior Israeli official told this to ABC because, quote, we might lose this war due to delays with ammunition. And what they're doing is trying to stop Israel from finishing the job and killing the last 4 battalions remaining of the 24 Hamas battalions. All this is going on while Hezbollah is completely, massively shelling them from the north. The Houthi rebels are also shooting missiles at them and doing everything they can to attack them from the south and south by southeast. But then also Iran is funding and training all of this. Joe Biden has given recently Iran $10 billion. While he is now slow-walking aid to Israel because he's losing the Muslim vote in Michigan and Minnesota. He is polling 10 under in Michigan in the critical categories right now. So what Joe Biden is doing, and by the way, Joe Biden agrees with this statement that Chuck Schumer said yesterday. He said, this is good. I like this. We're threatening Israel, and Bibi's got to step down.
He made a good speech, and I think he expressed a serious concern shared not only by him, but by many Americans.
So Biden says he made a good speech. In other words, calling for Netanyahu to step down is okay. Now, they're in the middle of a war. They're in the middle of a fight for their very existence. They're in the middle of their 9/11. We took 9 months to take Mosul. And Israel's about to finish it off. They need 4 to 6 more weeks is all they're asking for, which literally is, what, would be a total of like 6 to 6.5 months, less than we took Mosul in. Can you imagine, after our 9/11, them telling us or any other democratically elected ally of ours, a top strong ally of ours, to stand down from attacking ISIS? Could you imagine any one of our top allies demanding that our president at the time, George W. Bush, step down? Can you imagine that? That's what Joe Biden's doing, and he's saying, you ain't going to get what we already promised to send you, munitions and aid. And by the way, in the first 3/4 of this war prosecution, the U.S. was quick, bam, bam, with its ammunition. So he's doing this. He's going to let Israel lose. Because Israel cannot win if they don't finish Hamas. It'll be a Hamas victory. Joe Biden is saying, I want a Hamas victory so that I can win in Michigan and I can make sure I win in Minnesota. I want a Hamas victory. That's what he's saying. Even the turtle, Chuck Schumer, says this is grotesque. Where's the turtle? Here he is.
It is grotesque and hypocritical for Americans who hyperventilate about foreign interference in our own democracy to call for the removal of a democratically elected leader of Israel.
So here's some questions for you. At 800-288-WBAP, that's 800-288-9227. Do you support Biden and the Democrat Senate leader Chuck Schumer calling for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to step down? In the middle of a war, after their Holocaust, do you think, and why do you think they're demanding this? Why do you think Joe Biden and Chuck Schumer is demanding this? Obviously, I believe they're selling Israel out to one of our strongest allies. They're selling Israel out, that is, for political gain. That's it. There's no question. Screw you. Take your mat and go home. You lose. Hamas wins. And why do you think Joe Biden is slow-walking ammunition to Israel and jeopardizing the entire war for them? 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. What's shocking to, maybe it's not shocking, but all of Netanyahu's enemies, his political nemesis, are all standing by him after this happened. My buddy Eric Erickson writing, Schumer's comments have galvanized Israeli citizens behind Prime Minister Netanyahu's political opponents, condemning the Senate Majority Leader even harsher. Michael Herzog, who's like literally his political nemesis, Netanyahu's political nemesis, went so far as to say, quote, it's unhelpful, all the more so as Israel is at war against the genocidal terror organization of Hamas, to comment on the domestic political scene of a democratic ally. It's unhelpful. Leave us alone. Stay out of our elections. Everybody in Israel is behind Netanyahu, while Joe Biden's saying stand down and step down. Do you support Biden and Democrat Senate leader Chuck Schumer calling for the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to step down? And why do you think they're demanding this? And why now? And why do you think Joe Biden is slow-walking the ammunition to Israel as well, jeopardizing the entire war for them? 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. I've got a lot more for you on this. You're going to hear, with all these attacks on Israel for how they're prosecuting this war, the combat to civilian ratio of deaths. Combat deaths to civilian ratio deaths. What the UN says is acceptable, and what the Jews in Israel, well, and there's more than Jewish people fighting with them. I'll tell you about that too coming up. But the combat to civilian death ratio in Gaza compared to what the UN says is typical for urban warfare. This is going to shock you how well they're doing. That's coming up next on the Chris Crock Show. 800-288-WBAP. That's 800-288-9227.
Palestinian civilians do not deserve to suffer for the sins of Hamas, and Israel has a moral obligation to do better. The United States has an obligation to do better.
800-288-WBAP. That's 800-288-9227. It's Chris Cronk on News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset, y'all. Lines wide open for you. Question is, do you support Joe Biden and Democrat Senate Leader Chuck Schumer calling for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to step down? Why do you think they're demanding this, and why now? And why do you think Joe Biden is slow-walking ammunition to Israel and aid, jeopardizing the entire war for them? It's because they're calling for Netanyahu to step down because they don't want Israel to finish the job. They don't want Israel to defeat Hamas. They want them to leave 4 out of 24 of their brigades. I'm sorry, 6 out of 24 of their brigades intact, so that Hamas wins and the Israelis and we lose. They don't want Israel to finish the job on its 9/11, even though and they're interfering with the politician in an election. They are rigging. In fact, I'll read the quotation from Breitbart's Joel Pollack, who we will follow each other. I love his work. He says this is active political interference, and that's exactly right. So can you imagine one of our allies telling us, one of our strongest allies telling us, you know what, we're not going to help you anymore, and you need to get a new president in the middle of 9/11. By the way, as I mentioned, by contrast, it took Mosul 9 months to take out 5,000 ISIS fighters. Israel has taken out 21,500 Hamas fighters, which is 2/3 of its force, in just about 5 months. The chairman of the urban warfare studies at West Point described Israel's achievements as unprecedented, especially given the complex combat situations and below ground. He says Israel is setting the gold standard for avoiding civilian casualties, and we're going to go to our friend Jason in North Richland Hills in a second, then your call as well. And I want to tell you this real fast. The average combatant to civilian death ratio in Gaza is 1 troop for 1.5 Gazans. 1 to 1.5. That's an amazing ratio, especially when the United Nations says the average urban warfare is 1 combatant to 9 civilians. In other words, 8 more civilians killed for every soldier killed is what the UN says is typical urban warfare. Yet Israel is 1 for 1.5. That's insanity. That's why they're calling it the gold standard. General Petraeus, by the way, says the key now is to not stop until Hamas is fully destroyed. So this is insane for our president to say step down, and for our president to withhold aid and to let them they don't want them to win. By the way, every time you hear about civilian casualties in Gaza, the lying press, locally and nationally, they're liars, because they'll tell you 30 or 40,000 deaths. That's a lie. 21,500 are Hamas terrorists. Hamas reports the numbers, and they will never distinguish between a terrorist and a civilian, because they want to rig the numbers to make us and Israel look bad. And by the way, Iran's funding all this. We are the big Satan. Israel's a little Satan. Joe's stuffing $10 billion in their pocket and trying to let Hamas win, and therefore Iran win. Jason in North Richland Hills, you're on News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey, Jason.
Hey, Chris, good to be back on. Once again, this is pure Marxism, division of the people, and communism, anything they can do to control it by the government, only by the government, one state party. This is a scenario, again, where we see this party doing anything possible to help the enemy, our foes, the Hamas, so that they can stay in power with the people in Michigan, Minnesota, whatever. All the people they've let into the country that are not good for this country, they don't care. They're trying to build the census as high as they can so they can stay in power.
Yeah, so I mean, can you believe it? They're trying to get. What's that? Say that again, please.
This is the worst place I've ever been in. I'm sorry.
They say it again. This is the worst what?
This is the worst place the United States has ever been in my lifetime. I'm 53 years old. Again, they're trying to create the census so the Congress has control 100% from the Democratic Party, from the Dems, where they control everything by election. Now it's about the electoral vote.
Well, but listen to this. They want to control not just our elections and what's our government here and control every aspect of it. They want to control and replace every aspect of the Israeli government, and they'll let them lose a war over it.
No question. Again, now it's about them staying in power. He knows it's not right. He wants to support, but if he doesn't support Hamas now, then he's out.
I pray that our Jewish friends, I pray that our Jewish friends here in America, Jewish voters, reject this man for what he's doing. The unity in Israel, according to every report I've read today, yesterday, and since this terror attack, is 100%. When you have a liberal, anti-war, peacenik Jew from one of the kibbutzim, one of the small villages that was attacked, say that she used to be a pacifist and everything, but now she says kill them all. In these interviews I've read, that tells you everything. They are all, even the opposition of Bibi Netanyahu says, you're wrong, we're together on this. Stay out of our elections. So anyways, I got to roll, buddy, but I appreciate your call. So a couple more lines open for you at 800-288-WBAP. That's 800-288-9227. So this is amazing by basically saying, according to the Wall Street Journal, the column today on this, to replace their government, Israel, or the U.S. will have no choice, quote unquote, but to intervene and change the present course. They say rightfully that Netanyahu is duly elected. The idea that Israel is the obstacle to Middle East peace rather than the Iranian regime sponsoring the terror proxies across the region is so naive. It's worthy, more suited for a faculty lounge than the Senate floor, they say today. But I want to remind you of something else. Joe Biden is calling for a two-state solution. There is no two-state solution. This would hand terrorists a victory and then allow them to run the second state. So they'll be sandwiched from the West Bank, Israel will, to the east of them, and they'll be sandwiched between that and Gaza to the west of them, and they will crush Israel and kill them. And Joe, God forbid, if he's elected again in a year or later this year, I mean, he has sold these people out, and it's shocking to everybody, including me. By the way, Armenian Christians are training to fight for Israel. And this is pretty interesting. It really was touching to me. I read a few highlights from the story today in the Journal. There's what's called the Kinneret is a pre-military program in kibbutz Bet Zira. And they spend 7 months, these Armenian Christians, undergoing training, lectures, and field exercises to prepare for army service. The founder and half of their students are Armenian Christians. The Jewish state, the Journal says, is home to some 185,000 Christians, including 15,000 Arameans, whose ancestors lived in Levant. Remember ISIS in the Levant? They lived in the Levant, these Christians, Armenians, before Arab conquest, and they were early followers of Jesus. Christians have been persecuted. Listen to what Biden's name is all over this in anger for me. Christians have been persecuted in the Middle East for centuries. Only in Israel are Christians safe, says one of these Armenian Christians. They want to keep the country strong. They saw what Hamas did, and they say this is a threat that will follow them too, the Christian Armenians. And Joe Biden, you're over all this. You're saying screw the Christian Armenians, screw the 150,000 Christians, and screw those Jews over there. I pray that our Jewish friends who may vote Democrat will change their vote on this. This is vile, absolutely vile. You got a 39-year-old woman who's a Christian Aramaic and Israeli citizen. She's going to be fighting. A 39-year-old. Her son is 18. He's fighting. And this is really touching to me, very touching to me. And in closing, it says the Jews are an open-minded people. They want to know about people who are sharing statehood with them. Beautiful. Okay, hey, coming up next on the Chris Crock Show. You're not going to believe this. What major, massive company of food that almost every one of us buys in your fridge or freezer is their product right now. They are firing Americans across the United States to hire Joe Biden's illegals that have been brought in the past couple of years. Tens of thousands of them. Do not miss the story next on the Chris Crock Show on News Talk 820 WBAP and now on FM at 93.3.
He made a good speech, and I think he expressed a serious concern, shared not only by him, but by many Americans.
It is grotesque and hypocritical for Americans who hyperventilate about foreign interference in our own democracy to call for the removal of a democratically elected leader of Israel.
It's crazy, and I never thought this would happen because this is not who we are as a nation. But Joe Biden and Chuck Schumer have decided behind the scenes to sell Israel out and tell Bibi Netanyahu to step down, lose the war against Hamas. or else we're going to slow walk your aid and your ammunitions, or worse, interfering with Israeli democracy in the only democratically elected and free peoples of all the Middle East. It is vile and reprehensible. So let's go to Kevin in North Richland Hills. I'm asking the question, by the way, before we go to Kevin. Do you support Biden and Democrat Senator Leader Chuck Schumer calling for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to step down? Why do you think they're demanding this, and why now? And why do you think Biden is slow-walking ammunitions to Israel and jeopardizing the entire war for them? 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227 on News Talk 820 WBAP and now on FM at 93.3. Make that a preset. Hey, Kevin, in North Richland Hills, you're on News Talk 820 WBAP. How are you, brother? And now on FM at 93.3.
Good evening, Chris. The answer is absolutely not. He should not do this. And the reasoning behind this is because you know your Bible. It goes, and I don't understand why people don't talk about this. It goes back to the Old Testament with Ishmael and Isaac. You know the story, okay? And when the angel of the Lord came to Ishmael and his mother under the tree and said, "I'll make you a nation." But it also says that these brothers or stepbrothers, whatever, will be fighting till the end of the age. And people don't talk about that. So that's where it all comes from. You know that. I know that. And so if the United States takes their eye off of Israel, we're done as a nation. We're done because God will smite us.
It's amazing, though, that Biden and Schumer would literally let them lose the war and let Hamas win so that they can win the election in November. It's just unbelievable.
There's a cloak in front of their eyes, and you know what that is, okay? You and I know. And it gets into, forgive me, but the demonic realm, okay? It just is. And people lose perspective of that, and they don't have the vision of that aspect in the United States or the world anymore.
Well, you could look at it from a completely secular angle and say, this is our ally there. The Middle East is filled with is nothing but Muslim states, and our enemy is Israel. They call us the big Satan. They call Israel the little Satan. And here we have Joe Biden saying we want the little Satan to lose so the big Satan can be reelected again with its current president. And we want terrorism in Iran to win from all of its funding and training of terror. It's disgusting. It's reprehensible. And I pray that this gets him another notch to get him not voted and fired out of office in November. Thanks for your call, Kevin. Okay, this is shocking. My parents... and my brother, all of us are, Trump supporters and such. They were texting back and forth last night while I was on the air, and they were saying something about Tyson, and we're not buying any of these Tyson products. And I don't know if you've heard about this yet, but you're going to find out why right now. Why so many anti-illegals, all this Joe Biden illegal invasion, why so many people who are against this illegal invasion are now boycotting Tyson. And based on what I see, I am going to go out of my way to not buy any Tyson products as well, because this is happening. Here we go. And this is from the Daily Mail today. Tyson Foods is being boycotted as they fired 1,300 staff at an Iowa pork plant and are now offering jobs and lawyers to pay for lawyers for the illegals that Joe Biden has brought in. They're going to hire. They went to New York City, and their stated public goal in the news is they want to hire, they told Bloomberg, this is Tyson's social, Garrett Dolan, who leads Tyson's social efforts. We would like to employ another 42,000 of these Joe Biden illegals if we can find them. In recent weeks, they hired dozens of illegals that Joe brought in New York from Venezuela, Mexico, and Colombia at a job fair in New York City to work at its poultry plant in Humboldt, Tennessee. Meantime, they need to fill 52,000 jobs. And meantime, they have fired thousands and thousands of Americans. They are putting us Americans, our fellow United States citizens, at hardworking blue-collar jobs that Joe Biden claims to care about. They are firing them and putting them out of work to hire them from Joe's imported slave class. This is all in the plan. Fire Americans, hire illegals, but not the ones that have been here for 20 years. Joe Biden's illegals. Get them in there because they are offering pay at $16.50 an hour. And supposedly there's people that don't want to do these jobs. But why are they firing 1,300 staffers at an Iowa pork plant? But they've also fired a lot more people at different locations all over the country. They are shuttering they said this week, they already said at Tyson, they're going to shutter the pork plant I mentioned in Iowa. And half of the plant's workers are understood to be Latino, but they're here in the country legally from everything I understand. They closed last May 2 facilities in Virginia and Arkansas that employed more than 1,600 people. The plants in North Little Rock, Arkansas, of course, in Corydon, Indiana, and Dexter and Noel, Missouri, are set to end operations in the first half of this year. So they're laying off Americans. They are firing people in America, shutting down plants, and opening new plants and pumping them filled with Joe Biden's illegals that have just come in this country in the past year or 2 or 3. So we now see that a major, massive U.S. food company, Tyson Foods, and I'm going to give you all the different labels they have under their names so you can remember this, and I'll tweet it out too in a minute. Follow me on Twitter so you can see this, at Chris Kroc Show. That's at Chris Kroc Show, CHRASKROK. They literally are doing exactly what folks like us say. They're taking our jobs and they're giving them to illegals, but they're giving to brand new illegals that Joe Biden just brought in a year ago, 2 years ago. They're literally saying, hey, we'll pay you $16.50. We'll pay for your travel to the plant to come be an indentured servitude, a slave in modern day times. And we'll pay for your immigration lawyers, too, because we want this new imported slave class to get to work now. Come on, indentured servants, come. Let's go. That's what they're doing. This is just disgusting. It's angering. So my questions for you on this, I could be screaming about this, and there's a lot more information I'm going to be sharing with you on what they're doing. It gets worse the more I tell you. But my questions for you is, does Tyson Foods firing 1,300 staffers in their bid and closing all these other plants across the country, firing 1,300 staffers in their bid to hire 42,000 of Joe Biden's illegal migrants, make you want to boycott Tyson Foods and all their products? 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. They need to fill 52,000 jobs this year, they say. So this is perfect. This invasion is perfect. They're desperate. They got no money. They'll pay for the lawyers. They'll hire them, and they'll bring them in. And this is why it happened, guys. This is why it all happened. Joe has imported 9 to 12 million people, some of whom are raping. You're going to hear about a rapist, one of Joe Biden's brand new illegals he brought in last year, raping a 15-year-old disabled girl. That just happened today. We are just getting a taste of what this man's done to our country, but on an economical and jobs basis, we have Americans. Wait till you hear what the U.S. labor statistics are about decrease of how many native-born workers are working in this country. Less of us are working in this country, and more of Joe's illegals are getting the jobs. Disgusting. I want to hear from you right now at 800-288-WBAP, 800-288-9227 on News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.
This is a huge, gaping vulnerability in our national security that we don't have answers for. I'm reminded that there were 26 co-conspirators in the 9/11 attacks against the United States. Do you share that concern?
I do.
Sometimes people say, "Well, this is just a fantastic theory. It's no basis in reality." Do you consider that to be a frivolous consideration?
I do not. There are a whole host of threats that emanate from the border. Numbers don't tell the whole story. It only takes a few people who can be responsible for a whole lot of harm.
Okay, it gets worse with these illegals Joe Biden is burying us in. This is brand new from Bill Malugin, Fox News. Breaking per DHS sources. the Haitian man arrested for raping a 15-year-old disabled girl at an illegal migrant hotel in Massachusetts Wednesday night. He came to the U.S. via Joe Biden's parole program for Haitians, flying him directly in, no border. Fly him in so they can rape our disabled children. More rapes from Joe Biden's illegals. More. This is the third or fourth rape. One of Joe Biden's illegals raped a woman in Florida earlier this week. One of Joe Biden's illegals raped a child and a disably developmental adult. Two of these prior. This is the third rape in Massachusetts. Joe's flying him in direct from Haiti. Rape our children. Rape our disabled. Right in a hotel that Joe Biden's paying for of illegals. Rape them, Joe. Great job, Joe. Mnuchin saying that he came in direct from Haiti into New York last year with a 2-year parole grant. We're told that ICE has now filed a detainer on 26-year-old Corey B. Alvarez with local authorities. He had a sponsor listed in New Jersey. Biden has flown in on this program 30,000 Cubans, Haitians, Nicaraguans, and Venezuelans. So we'll just leave it at that for that, giving humanitarian parole so they can come. Oh, they can kill our daughters at school, at UGA, deforming their skull after they murder them with their bare hands. And they can also rape our children in Louisiana. This happened a week or two ago. In Virginia, happened a week or two ago. The list goes on and on and on. Shooting at our cops multiple times ad infinitum, from the Tren de Agua gang from Venezuela, opening their prisons up in New York State, in New York City. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics says between July and August of last year, there was a staggering decrease of 1.2 million native-born Americans in the workforce. 1.2 million less of us, and now the illegals are getting flown in by Tyson, and they're giving them 42,000 jobs, and they're paying for their lawyers. Get them out of here in New York. Get them over to these factories. We have our slave labor coming in. This is what Joe Biden's doing to America. Does Tyson firing 1,300 staffers in their bid to hire 42,000 of Joe's illegal migrants make you want to boycott Tyson Foods and their products? I tweeted out the story so you can see all their products and retweet it. Let's go first to your call at 800-288-WBAP. That's 800-288-9227. Daniel in Fort Worth, you're on News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hello, Daniel.
Hi. Just wanted to say that my father-in-law just got let go from Tyson about less than a week ago. And what he was telling me was they were hiring these immigrants and these illegals.
Hold on. They're not. Yeah, that's right. They're not immigrants. They're illegals.
And they're promising them that they're going to fight to get them legal here in the United States if they continue working there.
That's exactly right. It says that in the Daily Mail. They're trying to hire 52,000 of Joe Biden's illegal criminal invaders that have come in the past 3 years under Joe. And they're firing scores of their workers in factories across the country. They're closing plants in Virginia, Iowa, Arkansas, Indiana, and Missouri. And they want to double. They say they want to quote double their illegal migrant hires to 84,000 this year. 84,000.
And what makes me so angry is they're actually paying these people more money than some of these people that are working their butts off here, you know, in Fort Worth, and they can't barely make ends meet. But then you have these illegals come in and take all these jobs. It's crazy.
Let me read you what the Tyson spokesperson told Bloomberg News. We would like to employ another 42,000 of Joe Biden's illegals. I added that part in, if we can find them. In recent weeks, Bloomberg says they hired dozens of illegal asylum seekers from Venezuela, Mexico, and Colombia at a job fair in New York to work at their poultry plant in Humboldt, Tennessee. And he says a lot of these new hires are going to come from the illegal refugees and legal immigrants. So now we're in the business of strategically thinking that through, he says. It's public. I want to, last comment before we put you on hold, I want to get your information so I can stay in touch with you and maybe talk to your dad off the record or whatever he wants to do if he can. Okay?
Okay.
All right. But go ahead and finish your point, brother.
Well, I just want to say if this keeps going, we're not going to really have a country left.
Correct. All right, Daniel, I'm going to put you on hold. Producer Garrett, too, would you get Daniel's contacts? I want to get in touch with him off the air. Larry in Arlington, you're on WBAP News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey, Larry.
Yeah, hey, Chris. Hey, being a truck driver, Tyson owns so many companies. And if you want to, boycott Tyson and get with Tyson, Google all the companies that they own. I mean, because
got it right here. They own Jimmy Dean, Hillshire Farms, Hillshire
there you go.
Ballpark, Raised and Rooted, Adels, State Fair, Nature Raised Farms, Sara Lee, The Bruss Company, Bonici, Gallo's Salami, Bosco's, and Wright Brand. It's on my Twitter feed. Go ahead. Actually, let me put you on hold. Let me put you on hold. I want to hear the rest of what you have to say, but I don't want to rush you. Can you stand by?
Yeah.
Thank you, Larry. Stand by. All right, we're going to take his call. All these people to boycott, all these companies to boycott from Tyson are coming up. I got more for you about the Haitian illegal who's now in jail for raping a 15-year-old disabled child, and what they're finding off the coast of Haiti, which is alarming. That what DeSantis reported they found today, and feds raising fees for illegal immigrants. For immigrants in general. All that next.